intellect, mental capability, human capability. And actually, my students were right. It's not just knowledge that's poured into someone's head. It's not just information that we acquire. The real stuff of economic growth is what we've had all along, our human creativity. It's human creativity, our own creative capabilities that are the real source of economic growth. Whether we're an artist or an engineer or a scientist or work in technology or entertainment or manufacturing or even agriculture. Think about Australian agriculture and the transformation in your own agricultural sector. Whatever we do, increasingly, the economic value component comes not only from the natural resources, the physical resources, the manufacturing, but from this creative capability. It's changing everything, and that's what Rise of the Creative Class is all about. It's changing the way we work. You know, we were having a meeting on the beach today, wearing board shorts and T-shirts. This is unfathomable in my grandparents' and parents' time. You worked in a factory, you put on work clothes, or if you worked in an office, you put on a suit and a tie, and you went to work at 9, and you came home at 5, and you did it every day. It is unthinkable, would be unthinkable for my parents to even imagine working in this kind of way. It's changing our life. When we work with our mind, my dad worked in a factory every day. He broke his back. He worked with his legs and his arms and his hands. You know, when he came home from work, the last thing he would think about, if there was an ocean nearby, pulling out a surfboard and going surfing. My dad was deathly afraid of the water. He barely had ever seen it. He would never think about going for a run. My mom, can you imagine my mom putting on a pair of rollerblades and a Lycra, you know, a little old Italian woman, and rollerblading down the street? They would have put them in the insane asylum. People just didn't do these things. But now, because we work with our minds, when we come home from work, we need this kind of physical relief, not because it's fun and games. We need exciting arts and culture and coffee shops and restaurants, not because we're having a fun time and being frivolous. And in the words of one of my interview subjects, we do this to recharge ourselves for a new working day. Creativity doesn't come in an assembly line. Creativity comes with the flow that comes from the human mind. Well, this economic transformation is huge. It is changing everything. And I'll talk a little later about how it scares and makes lots of people fearful and anxious. And that's particularly true back home in the States. Now, when you think about economic development in these terms and think about what communities need to do, what we found is that communities have to do 3 or 4 things in this day and age to compete and win and prosper. Note, and Al said it in my biography, the name of our new institute isn't the Competitiveness Institute, isn't the Economic Growth Institute, isn't the Economic Development Institute. We picked one word. It's a Prosperity Institute. It's an institute that focuses on creating a shared vision of prosperity for all. But what we found is when we looked at communities that were succeeding and winning and prospering, they had to do 3, and now we believe 4 T's. They have to invest in technology. They have to be technology leaders. They have to be the kind of place that has access to the internet and wireless and software and combine them in different ways with music and arts and culture and use them to transform existing businesses. But just having technology alone, which most people say is the driving force, isn't enough. I saw that in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was a technology leader. It had some of the greatest and biggest research and development facilities in the world. It had 2 of the greatest universities. And the technology would be created and leave because the people would be created and leave, which led me to my second T, talent. In order to succeed and win, you have to be a place that creates talent and that attracts talent and that talented people want to stay and grow their lives and grow their families. As I used to say in Pittsburgh, our great export was no longer steel. It was the talented and creative people that we created. In order to do that, you have to be tolerant. You have to be the kind of place that's open-minded, that allows people to self-express, that allows people, regardless of their age or gender or sexual orientation or ethnicity or nationality, to come and have a go. You know, that's what made my country great. 100 years ago, America said, we want to welcome people from all over the world. And what I learned in doing the research for Flight of the Creative Class really was quite surprising to me. When I looked back at the history of America and its economic growth, what I found is it wasn't raw materials that made America great, wasn't natural resources that made America great, wasn't the size of the market that made America great, wasn't this silly thing called American ingenuity, nor was it this shared thing we call a Protestant ethic. The people who built America were immigrants. And what I learned is that America grew because it, at its time, was the most open country in the world. It attracted people like my grandparents, but it attracted people like Andrew Carnegie, a Scotsman who built the steel industry, Andrew Grove, a Hungarian who built the semiconductor industry. All of those high-tech companies that you see as American, 50% of them in the high-tech Silicon Valley were created by an Indian, a Chinese, a European, a foreign-born person. And so sometimes it gets kind of silly, you know, and I saw it right in the Sunshine Coast paper. I saw the cover. And I actually asked the paper to please send me a JPEG, a PDF of that, because I'm so proud of it. Does Florida really believe economic development? You're going to bring a bunch of gay and lesbian people to Noosa, and that's what's going to spur economic development. Hang on. Hold on. My wife, Ronna, can attest I have been accused of spending 30 years of research in economic growth and development for only one reason, because it was my life's goal to have a gay and lesbian agenda. I've been accused in headlines of developing a model of economic development which is based upon the attraction of yuppies, sophistos, trendoids, and gays. I've been said to be trying to undermine the family as we know it, and to be calling for the end of Judeo-Christian civilization in our time. All I care about is economic growth and prosperity. That's what I've studied for 30 years. And what we learned is that places that are open-minded, that allow people to be themselves, that welcome artists, surf dancers, musicians, engineers, entrepreneurs, open-minded thinking people, and the gay and lesbian community, those are the kind of places that have it in their very social DNA to grow, because that's the kind of places people want to be, and that's the kind of places people think they can realize their dream. I don't want to go too far down this road, but what I want to suggest is that in Australia you have an enormous opportunity because America's lost its way. Because America's forgotten what made it great. I actually continue to blog post while on the road, sometimes very early in the morning or sometimes very late at night. I posted 2 blog posts today on my website at creativeclass.com. One brought tears to my eyes because it said that to enter the United States or to exit the United States from John F. Kennedy Airport or Dulles Airport, all 10 fingers will be fingerprinted. We are closing our borders. We are saying no to the talent that made us great. Well, in Flight of the Creative Class, I said that creates an enormous opportunity for 3 kinds of societies. One, I said it was going to advantage Canada, and we were so fortunate to have the opportunity to go to work in Canada. We now live in Toronto, and I teach at the University of Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. They were going to be advantaged because they were open-minded cities, had attracted a lot of immigrants, allowed gay and lesbian people to marry. I said the Scandinavian countries had a real advantage in this time. The Nordic nations, they have a history of social democracy, of allowing people to flourish, of having an open-minded self-expression culture. And I said that Australia and New Zealand, those were the 3 targets, I said, because those were the 3 kinds of countries that could treat people and value people and understand the need for openness.